Hi everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Human Factor Security Podcast. With me, your host, Jenny Radcliffe, the People Hacker. Delighted today to have a fab guest on. Oh, sometimes, I can't believe the people that agree to come on this show. I have the lovely Krystyna Lennon, who is the world's best hypnotist. Weird, and may be familiar to you all from her many appearances on TV. Welcome to the show, Krystyna.
Thank you for having me. And it is like, I don't call myself the world's best. Well, I do now, but
CBS did.
Yeah, they did. So I thought,
so take it, Grassford.
I am taking it.
Grassford, hold it in your hand. Yeah.
I've got it tattooed.
I've got to have it tattooed. I have my logo tattooed. Oh, where's it gone? Cool. The brain. Yes. So look at that. That stops the conversation entirely. Yeah. Oh my God. It's a good job I don't sell pancakes or something. Don't have that. Yeah. But look, it's lovely to meet you, Krystyna. I mean, you and I have been on a few similar podcasts. That's really how we got to know each other, on Mr. Winnett's podcast.
Yes.
Both of us. And I remember you pinging me and going, is Mike okay? It's like, he's not. He's not okay.
But you never know what I've done or I've been asked to do TV shows, and then when you find out what it's really about, you're like, I'm not doing that. Or and his podcast, some other guests, I was like,
But when you get his angle,
it was like I didn't know what the intent was. So yeah.
No, and I mean his angle is really clever. So big shout out to Mike and everyone at I Am Productions there. But that's just a good way to start, because one of the things I've been obviously doing some research on you don't half get asked some stupid and dodgy questions.
Oh yeah.
I mean, first of all, do you want to just tell everyone what it is that you do? Because I know I've introduced you there, but it's more than just the TV show and everything, isn't it? It's more than the act.
Yeah, I hate people asking me what I do, because what do I do? My background is psychology, psychotherapy, executive coaching and hypnosis. I use hypnosis to help effect change for the betterment of people generally, but I've used hypnosis to do all sorts of things like TV stuff, a dog that hypnotizes people. Why not?
Well, why not? And I mean, I remember seeing that on Britain's Got Talent. I used to watch that on a Saturday with my little pal.
Watch that trash.
My little mate loved it, and she remembered. I mean, it was like, oh God, I vaguely remember that strange little dog kind of staring at everyone and everything. I did. I'd seen it originally. It's funny that you get to speak to people, but that was really, the act was really just, I mean, brilliant for visibility. But one of the things I really wanted to speak to you about was the fact that you're so good with your brand and as a businesswoman, and no one ever asks you that. So was that part of the whole thing?
You get it. Everyone else just thinks I'm like that. Some people just don't see the connection at all. They're like, crazy dog woman. Oh, you're the woman with the dog thing. You did the dog thing. What's all that about? But it is connected. It's proving the power of covert hypnosis. And that proved it. Nobody comes on stage like, I'm going to be hypnotized by a dog. Everyone's like, no, it's not going to work for me. No way. Everyone that watches it, nobody believes that it's going to happen. And yet once they've seen a show or been to a show, they're like, oh my God, this is real. And that's the power of covert hypnosis. And that's what I use to help people affect change in their own lives.
It was just genius, I thought. It was a genius move because, looking into it, obviously in retrospect, and thinking there's this lady, she's brilliant at hypnotherapy and helping people. And rather than take out an ad Prime Time Saturday Night TV, she goes, okay, I'll use this bit of it to get the eyes on. And as a businesswoman, I've looked into what you do, and I think I love that aspect of it. I know everyone knows actually about hypnosis, and I'm going to ask you bits about it, but for me, that was such a smart move. I mean, you built the business up yourself. For how long have you been a coach?
Well, I mean, I qualified in 1999, so I've been doing this stuff for 20 years, sort of part-time. I always had another job and was seeing odd clients on the side. And it was 2014. I was actually working as a business development manager, and I was about to be sacked. I'd been suspended. I was about to be sacked, and I thought, right, it's
who do we need to kill?
Tell me. It was
kind of,
I'd kind of promised the kids we'd go to Australia because we hadn't seen my brother for 8 years.
Yeah.
And then I found out I was going to be sacked. So it was like, what am I going to do? So I thought, right, let's do a show to put me on a platform. And also there was 2 reasons. One, to challenge the belief that I couldn't speak in front of people, because I truly had held that belief. I'd rather die than speak in front of people. And secondly, just to put me on a platform so that people, saw what I did. And so the experiment began to become a stage hypnotist.
It's incredible to me that you did that, because one of the things that you talk about, and I've been watching interviews and things, that you're on Eric's show as well. I was on Eric's show.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And one of the things you've talked about in several interviews is that the first time you did that stage show, was it your first time as an and it all went wrong and they fell asleep, but they didn't.
Don't mention the name though. Have I mentioned that? Yeah, they'll bring it on for a refund.
But I'll bing it out. For a refund. We want a refund now, because we don't guarantee results.
Yeah, exactly. But that was the worst. It was horrifying. I was nearly sick before I went on through nerves. And I went on stage and they all went under. They just weren't responding to anything I said. So they'd wake up, I'd ask them to count to 10 and they just count to 10 normally. They wouldn't miss the number 7. I was oh my God. And I actually said, I'm sorry, there's been a technical fault. We're going to have to end the show there, and ran off stage. And it was my son that was like, Mum, you've got to go back out. The people need an explanation. They want to meet the dog. And I went back out and people were lovely. And they had really enjoyed what had happened, for that sort of hour, because they'd seen some interesting things, just not what I expected. And I then learned that actually people are really interested in this stuff and the process, not just the end result of somebody doing something hilarious.
I mean, that was what I was thinking. I thought in the end, you'd have to explain the process a bit. I mean, you could fill the gap, but I mean, the only reason I bring it up is because you have kahunas. I mean, oh my God, to then go on telly was not that like virtually the next gig.
I don't know whether it's to do with big balls or it's just pure stupidity.
No, that takes guts. That does. Yeah. If you bombed and then the next show's massive.
Yeah, it was. Like, I did. It was that show bombed. Then I did one successful show, and then I went on BGT. And I was a complete novice. It was, and the show was a bit of a car crash, to be honest.
Which was
BGT.
Well, I didn't look it.
No, well, they edited it well, let me tell you.
Well, yes, but like we had Simon Cowell collapsing, and I remember because they kept putting they kept zooming in on the dog. The dog's called Princess. She's retired now. She kept zooming in on her, making it look. And they wanted you to go on it. They hounded you to go on. Oh, yeah. Sorry for the pun. They hounded you to go on, though, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They kept asking. I just kept saying no, because obviously I wasn't very good at what I did. And I didn't know how it was. I had a 2-hour show and I didn't know how I was going to get like 3-4 minutes worth on TV, but they just were like, no, we need you on. So it's like, oh, okay, what could possibly go wrong? Didn't think, Simon Cowell collapsing would be part of the mix.
I mean, they want, I mean, I did a much smaller part in the TV show. And I know that we had to, and ours was completely non-scripted. It was, there was nothing. I was on Hunters. I was on the show Hunters, and
oh really? That's one of my favourite shows.
So I was going to go back and Hunters. I was in HQ with the chief and everything. Season 4. Just say it one more time. The one we caught them all on. I know from there that it's got to be good. I wasn't very good really, because I was interested in. I just really couldn't play up to the cameras the way they wanted me to. I was doing a job and I was there to do my job, and I kind of didn't really do it. But I know that they edited it. They can edit things to look so entertaining. They've got a certain view in the mind. I can only imagine a show the size of Britain's Got Talent must have been the same thing. Did you ever feel a little bit like, you know, sort of that you were bending everything towards what they needed. And
that is the reason everyone's like, oh, you must love doing TV. I get paid to do TV. I get paid to participate in talent competitions. I've just breached about 15 contracts.
I know, but I mean, you're a proper, some of them do, like, you're a proper professional. I knew a guy who was the clown on it one year, and they'd gone to him and asked him to sing. And I mean, they won a few professionals.
Exactly.
The lunatics.
Yeah, I get paid to go all over the world and do these TV shows. But what I did notice on BGT is they were really putting pressure on people to say things. There was a girl that was doing like hula hooping, and they actually made her say that she'd done a show for the whole town. She was like, I haven't. I'm gonna look so stupid. And it's like, well, why did you say it? But it's that, you know, persuasiveness, the pressure. But the reason why I didn't do well on BGT is because I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't bend to what they wanted me to do. You know, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent, I don't know. But I'm that kind of person. I am who I am. That's what you get, and that's it. I'm not going to pretend to be anything else. I don't care how much money. Well, depends how much money.
Depends a bit on the money, but I mean, I did think that because I get asked. So part of social engineering is doing research on a person and putting it together and sort of saying, oh, you know, so you'd say like the dog's name's Princess, and they go, you can find that out on Facebook, and then you go, but last night it was ill, and they're like, oh my god, how did you know those things? And I get asked to, now we do that as part of an investigation, but I get asked on the speaking circuit, can I do that? Can I do hosting for, you know, a panel and like surprise them with everything we found out, give them their passwords, their bank account details and stuff like that? And it's like, it makes me think there's so many parallels between what you do and what I do in some ways, although yours is far more glamorous and everything, very talented. But I sort of feel a little bit like it's not a novelty act. And I love the fact that you were like, but then I sometimes think, is there a bit of it that we could take to one side and do a little bit of it almost as entertainment? And it's edutainment really. And I suppose that's what you did. You took this very serious therapy and just turned it into this brilliant advertisement for
it's weird how the show progressed though, because at first it was a 2 hour over hypnosis act, i.e. I'd hypnotize them all in a normal traditional way, and then the dog would come on at the end with a suggestion that the people will fall asleep. But because of all the TV work, it suddenly took off. I mean, I was in China like a month after I did BGT. Do you know what I mean? And then it was Russia, Japan, Germany, Hollywood. I've literally been all over the world with a dog. And every TV show wanted something different. Some people were like, right, you've got 5 minutes and that's it. And I didn't get to meet anyone. So it's like, shit, I'm going to actually have to use covert methods backstage with people while they're queuing up to go on stage. I can't actually just put them under and give them a suggestion. It's going to have to be covert. And I had to learn so quickly. But I think after doing English TV, it gave me sort of false confidence because they edited it so well. I thought, it doesn't matter what I do, you know, they're going to edit it good. But then I realized that not everybody is as good at TV. Like, I do some TV shows and I think they're going to make that look brilliant, and they made it look terrible. And I had to learn the covert stuff very quickly, manipulating people and taking control of people really, really quickly.
I can imagine. I mean, I studied hypnosis. Right. Because I studied it because my job's all about manipulation and persuasion ethically.
Yeah, you're right.
it really is. Like, I damn my bloody ethical stance. Like, I'd be rich. And I was going to say, like, just to say to people, the theory of hypnosis isn't that difficult. To get good at it is bloody the most difficult thing in the world. And for you had to sort of really up your game once you started getting bookings on TV, I'd imagine. Because I mean, hugely. I remember studying it, and I know the theory of it. I studied Milton Erickson and Orman McGill. Like, you couldn't
Very
get
good.
two more different.
But too good. Yeah.
And Ormond there, and remember, just the book was like this, and just going through it and through it. But having someone to practice on. And
I practiced on my kids. My kids
so
were,
funny.
I mean, they're now 15, 25, in a couple of days, and 28. And they didn't have stories going to bed. They were hypnotized going to bed. It was like magic carpet rides, creative visualization. So they are amazing at hypnosis now. I can literally go and they're gone. Like all I do is look at my daughter. I go, look at me. And I click my fingers, she's out. She literally drops. She doesn't know what's happened. But what actually happens is I go, look at me, and she just runs. She turns and runs. She's like, no.
I'd imagine she does. Because I mean, I see you've got, even to be able to, just to say to everyone, even to be able to get to that level of being able to just put someone under like that and do clicks and things. It's a, I mean, I remember learning all sorts. Some of it was so dodgy. Like some of the methods that you get into for people who resist and that type of thing. But do the kids not understand a bit about the theory? So sort of understand that they have to, I suppose they do believe it because their whole life
they've never known anything different.
Yeah. Because it does have a little bit, if someone is very resistant to it, right? I mean, you've spoken about this before, but not, although everyone could be, some people are just going to fight it just to be contrary, I suppose, aren't they?
I mean, if you don't, it depends how. Everyone can be hypnotized. If somebody said to me they didn't want to be hypnotized, I could still hypnotize them. I'd just go about it a different way. I'd use covert methods. It's my job. When somebody comes to visit me, if they, for instance, have something they want to overcome, like I help a lot of people overcome procrastination. It's a huge area. You know, loads of people suffer with procrastination and they literally feel stuck, that nothing can help them. It doesn't matter how much money you offer them, they don't get the job done. So to get those people moving is quite difficult. They have to have that belief in me. So I have to use covert hypnosis methods to even get them to believe in me in the first place. Once they believe I can help them, doesn't matter what I do. I could go, you're hypnotized, now you're awake, it's done. The hypnosis bit is the tiniest bit at the end.
It's the tiniest thing,
programming.
Right?
Yeah.
Because for someone who's a good coach and who's used to kind of taking people past those problems, it's probably just it's a big tool. It's what you're known for, it's what you're great at, I'm sure, but it's just one part of that toolkit, really, isn't it?
Yeah, the hypnosis is that's why, you know, other people say, oh, I've already seen a hypnotherapist about this. It's like, you haven't seen me. It's my skill set is completely different. I learned so much. I mean, I've done a lot of hypnotherapy study. I learned so much doing stage. Much more. Because
I bet when you talk about that time that it didn't work, and I hate to focus on that, it's like you're genius and you're brilliant and you booked all over the world and famous.
That's where you learn the most.
That's the one. Like, you've got to die. It's like with my job, you've got to be caught once. You've got to kind of everything to go wrong for you to kind of even identify where you've got to up your game, but to do it live on a stage in front of a paying audience. I think this woman's just my hero. You've got such huge, you know, bottle, I think, to have gone back and done it.
I always used to think after BGT that was horrific. After that, they were all in different countries, and I just thought, they're paying me, I'll never watch it, I don't care. That's all I ever thought, and that's why I went along and did it.
But I was going to ask you, because one thing that I always, I mean, and I did do it to a tiny extent, and I was hypnotized, and I was like, I'll never be hypnotized because I know how it works and I've learned it and everything. And I remember being hypnotized by my friends, who was my partner in my course, like he was my partner, and doing deepeners, loads and loads of deepeners, and thinking, if the fire alarm goes off, I'm not going to be able to move. But then knowing that if it did, I would move. Do you know? And people always, I guess you've been asked this probably before, I think Mike asked you, people don't realise there's a line, isn't there? You couldn't necessarily hypnotise someone to do anything. I mean, otherwise there'd be murderers everywhere. And
you can hypnotize some people to do anything, to commit murders. there is certain people, you get 15 people up on stage. Out of that 15 people, there's between 1 and 3 that are really suggestible. I mean, I don't have to do anything. You get them up there and you go, look at that one spot on the ceiling, and as soon as the music starts, they're like, and you can see they're going, and I just walk up behind them, nudge the head, bang, they're down. And I've not even started.
I know
what I mean?
you said, but you've said that before. But like, if they want to be hypnotized, they want to be part of the stage show, they want to go along.
Everybody that's up there wants to be up there, but it's not even about. Some people I don't think this will work for me. It's not even about that acceptance. It's what I always say is, when you turn up to my show, everybody turns up going, this is a load of rubbish. This is balls. This is not going to work. A dog's not going to hypnotize people. But there's 1% of doubt, which is why you turn up. If you didn't believe it, if you thought they were all actors, you wouldn't even turn up in the first place, unless you really love dogs.
Or you certainly wouldn't volunteer to go on the
stage.
Exactly.
So there's that 1% of doubt, and that's what all I need is that 1%, and you're a goner.
Do you know, I love that, because like I think I read you saying somewhere, they never do believe I can do it, which is quite funny the way you say it, because we say that in social life, no one ever believes we're going to get them, but we do.
Yeah. It's the ones that think they can't be hypnotized, which are the best, because they're not protecting themselves.
No. Arrogance is such a vulnerability. It's such a vulnerability.
It's like,
I just didn't think it
would burgle me, so I don't lock my doors.
Well, that's what they do think.
Yeah,
and we do. And we do, absolutely. There are sharks in the hypnosis industry. There are sharks in my industry. I mean, I feel like how could you they must have stooges, right? Because this is something that takes a long time to master and to do live in front of people and everything. It must drive you mad that that's the case, because then it sort of ruins the enjoyment for people on the stage though. And then maybe I would be worrying, if I was you, about the efficacy of what you were trying to do on the therapy side, because there's these people who are just fake and dreadful.
I've turned up to shows before, not on TV, but shows, and they've said, do you need a stooge? And that was the first time I'd ever heard the word stooge. And I was like, what's a stooge? And they're like, oh, someone to come and pretend. I was like, nope. And that was really weird to me. I probably could have done it for the first show. I could have done with one then, the one that I did in. But yeah, there's people, like with any industry, there's people that are really good at the job and there's people that are really bad at the job. But for some reason with hypnosis, it's like, I've been to see a hypnotherapist, it didn't work, so therefore hypnotherapy doesn't work. Well, that's not the case. If you, I don't know, have some building works done, you can get somebody that builds something that falls down, and something can build a mansion. So it's the quality of the person, which it's a difficult one to find. I think you've got to look for results, really.
Well, you see, that's what I was trying to get at, really. It's the results. It's if it works. I mean, I've heard you speak about eye signals before now, and I studied all that because I studied body language and I studied lie detection, right? And I would always have said, I always say, this is about the discredited pseudoscience of NLP. But when people ask me about the eye signals, there's no science. The science has disproved it, but anecdotally, I've seen people do it as well. And if it works.
Yeah. It's the thing with science, though, is, when they test hypnosis, what hypnotists are they using? Do you know what I mean? Because I've spoken to hypnotists that have done scientific experiments, and they're terrible. They couldn't hypnotize a sleeping dog. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, well, if you're using that person, you're going to get rubbish results. And science, whoever funds the experiment is looking for a certain result.
Yeah.
So it's all I go by is what I've seen results. Hypnosis is only proved to help certain things scientifically, but I've seen it help thousands and thousands of people with different things, and lots of people make different claims. I don't know. It's I think if you're looking for someone to help you, you need to look at the results that person is getting. Testimonials, reviews, that kind of thing.
I mean, I agree, and I think you know, I'm going to get on to talking to you about critical thinking on the curriculum, because Mike spoke to you about it, and I wanted to pick up on it, because I was 100%, and I know you were, because you said so in the interview, 100% teach people to think more critically, and to question whether they're being influenced and everything else, because it is possible. It doesn't matter really, you know. What is convincing is what we are convinced by, and if somebody believes, if it stops someone smoking, or lets someone lose weight because that's good for their health, then, and it works for them, I don't think we should diss people who do it if it's done ethically. I think what people kind of worry about is the sharks in the industry and the face in the industry who are not doing it ethically. And that's what and that's why I was sort of saying, like, that's why I sort of really, my ears pricked up when you said no, that people should be taught critical thinking, because I've said that as well. It's because this kind of influence is present all over the place, isn't it? I mean, you must have watched with horror some of the events in the States and things.
It's everything at the minute, to me, has just highlighted the influence. And it's like, somebody contacted me recently about doing a podcast about how everybody's been controlled, to wear a mask and this, that, and the other, and it's this symbol of being controlled. But this person then wrote about, I said, oh, I'm not really interested. This person then wrote back about 17 paragraphs evidence about not wearing a mask and a thing. And I think, well, you've just been controlled the other way.
Yeah,
I mean, you're just in the other camp.
You're surrounding people in this information environment, right? And what I remember from my sort of really talking to yourself hypothetical level of training was things like you focus in the mind on a specific thing, so like to the exclusion of other things, and then directing the mind in a certain way, right? And so you looked at some of the ways that Donald Trump did things, for example, he'd repeat things a few times and then just say something completely off the subject. And that fits the pattern, doesn't it? Or am I
No, I think lots of people called it Trumpnosis. He does so many things. He's been trained, and a lot of people at that level.
Do you really think trained. He's been trained? I thought he might have been, because I wouldn't imagine him being able to take instruction.
I'm not saying he's sat on a hypnotherapy course,
no.
In Marissa Peer or whatever her name is. He's been trained. There's people that will train you how to stand, the typical, hand, the way people stand, they open the chest, where to look, how to keep the head high. There's so many different things, not to touch the face, which I'm a bugger for, like, oh my God, I'm lying, I'm doing this. It's like, and they're trained, they have scripts written by people that are really clever at this stuff, that influence and put embedded commands in there. I watched this guy the other day, and he was selling a program, and he was like, I'm not going to stand here and tell you to buy my course. I was like, oh, that's the most overt.
It's horrible.
What I always say is to clients, especially when I'm working with somebody, is they're hypnotizing themselves all the time. Very often it's my job to unhypnotize them, to wake them up from that trance. I spoke to somebody today about an anxiety, and she was saying, I can't do this, I have to do this. And it was like, oh my God,
it's speaking in like definites, like set in stone.
And it was like,
it's like someone saying, I'm no good at maths, I can't do maths.
Yeah, I can't.
I always go, yet,
exactly. Yet's a magic word.
But it's okay.
The first thing I teach people is how to speak to themselves. It's like, don't say I can't do it. Say I have difficulty doing it. Let's just downgrade it a little bit. Because have you ever dragged anybody to do something that they can't do? They're going to resist with all of their being. And that's the mindset you're in when you say words like can't. So people are, people that have anxiety about, I don't know, getting in a lift, they wind themselves up weeks before, days before, knowing that this event is coming up. Like, I'm going to react like this. They decide in advance how terrible they'll feel. And their body and mind then thinks this catastrophic event is going to happen because they've already imagined it, they've already lived through it. So the primitive part of the brain is action stations ready for this horrific event that's going to happen in this lift. Everything's going to snap, they're going to die, they're going to pass out, and that's not reality.
And so when you're talking to them and doing the hypnotherapy sides of it, it's really just about sort of making that less juicy for them, isn't it? Sort of like, I'm just thinking of some of the techniques I learned of things like just, like, because like, for example, for like, when people have got phobias and just like making it less of a sort of a fueled experience.
I mean, I've been doing this long. I have come up with my own ways of working, and working with a phobia, I deconstruct it, completely deconstruct it to the point where there's so much confusion that they don't. Like, for instance, I'll say, all right, so you're scared of needles. Yeah, but you've got a tattoo. That was a needle. So were you scared of that? Oh, I've never thought about it like that. You've got your ears pierced. Are you okay with that needle? Because that's a fat needle. You're all right with that going through your body? Oh, I don't know. Is it the part of your body that you're scared? Are you? And I'll ask them so many questions that they don't even know what they're scared of anymore.
No.
So the work's kind of already done before I do any hypnosis. Then I get them to decide in advance how they will be. And it's like, it's thin end of a wedge, that if they can keep control and keep calm up until the point and through the point, but there's a point where it goes beyond a point of no return where they freak out and they're like, no, I can't do it. If you get to that point, I can't, even with my powers, I'd find it difficult to pull you back. I need you to maintain control. Make sure that once you even start thinking about it, it's like, bring yourself back down, delete that. And I use a different method than anyone I know. We identify the thoughts that release the adrenaline, or whatever the nasty hormone is that they're releasing. We identify what those thoughts are and we delete them. Every time they go to think, oh my God, delete, it's gone.
I think that's really valuable for people, because I think people really don't understand how important the words are and the frames that we have in our heads. And that's what we work with when we're pulling a con. It's the same type of thing. It's like, well, we can kind of make you think in a certain way, we can lead you down a certain path because we know that you've got memes and lists in your head around certain terms. So if I say Scouser, there's a certain list that comes up in people's heads. I can play to that list, or I can start to cancel it out and confuse people a little bit. And I just think that someone who's a master at this, like yourself, it's I mean, I know everyone, just to say to listeners, she probably wants me to ask Krystyna all about like more about Simon Cowell and stages and stuff, but it's very important that you understand the way that this can happen, because for example, we would look at the way criminals use this type of thing, and they use these sort of principles to con people. So they would make something very emotional content, and then in the middle of that emotional email or whatever, they give them an easy way out. So you're in so much trouble, and we've got photographs of you looking at porn sites, and we've got all this stuff, but click this link and you've gone.
Yeah.
And I just wondered what your thoughts on that would be, because that's really what criminals are doing. That's how scamming works. They get people to an emotional state, offer them a way out, and then lead them down, which is obviously not the best thing for them to do.
It's marketing. It's marketing using authority. Firstly, authority, whether it's got, I don't know, sometimes you get stuff through from like HMRC or whatever, or instant authority. Then it's state control. So it's causing me to change my state, i.e. think of something horrible or something traumatic for me, so I feel upset. And then, you can create a positive state change. So I can control, for instance, I might get you to think about, oh God, when you procrastinate, you think of this and you don't do that, and you're not achieving this and you're frustrated. But then I'll think, if that's gone, how will you feel? What will you achieve? And then it's like, I'm changing your state, because then you're like happy about it. And that's how marketing works as well.
Yeah. I mean, what I was interested in when you were saying before was that you were using logic to combat that emotion. Now, what I always say is emotion kicks logic off the cliff. So if we're scamming someone, we don't want them in a logical state. So you're sort of pulling the logic back in and just, like you say, deconstructing that emotion.
Yeah.
And that makes it less potent, I guess. It's very
Yeah,
clever.
because
It's very interesting to me.
they anchors are powerful things, massive powerful things, and they have anchored that fear to the needle. Yeah. And it's never the needle. It's never the needle. It's usually like the vein or something that they don't like, veins or blood or something. It's never the needle. It's usually that they don't want to feel the panic that they feel. That's what they're really scared of, feeling that amount of panic.
Yeah.
Well, they do that to themselves. The needle doesn't do it to them.
And that's the difference with the tattoo, I suppose. This is a choice that they've paid for and committed to.
They've just reframed that. And it's that easy to switch and change it. You know, some people say, oh, I spoke to somebody this morning and they were like, I've had this fear for years. I don't believe it could be gone, you know, in 3 sessions. It's like it started in a second and it can be gone in a second. And it is that fast. It's like if you think about it, you know, when you're on a diet and you're going to the gym and you're eating healthy and you just can't imagine, you know, sat eating a cake. And then the other times where you can't imagine going to the gym, it seems like you'd rather put a gun to your head and you just can't stop eating cake. Do you know what I mean? It's like all it is that switch in your brain. There's a difference. And that's what hypnosis does. It flicks the switch really quickly.
I mean, it'd be so great if we could do that, if we could flick switches in people's heads so that they'd recognise all these scams. But I mean, I just think it's such a valuable conversation to have because you work this all the time. And I know it was not the usual interview, but I wanted to talk to you really about the serious side, if you like, of the work that you did.
It's amazing how I always remember getting a client who was a master of NLP and thinking, what's she coming to me for? I realized then you can have all the qualifications and no idea. Yeah. It's practice and
it's practice.
So many. I mentor other coaches and therapists and hypnotherapists on, you know, on not just the business but on skills and stuff, because there's such a big difference between a good and a bad hypnotherapist or anything really.
How does it work if you hypnotize in a foreign language? Because I was told certain language and speech patterns that I couldn't do if I was through a translator.
I mean, I learned very quickly that I need a simultaneous translator that says what I'm saying, starts translating, because the very first TV show I did, I'd say a sentence, then they'd say a sentence, and I'd say, look at the ceiling, and they were speaking Chinese and they'd be speaking for about 5 minutes. I think, is that what I just said?
No.
It was really difficult to like, and then by the time she'd get to the end, I'd have forgotten what she was saying, what I'd just said. I'd be
you
like,
must lose the rhythm.
Yeah. So you need a simultaneous translator, but what I always say to the translator is follow I need somebody that's confident, and more important than anything, follow my speed tone. So if I'm talking quietly and rhythmic, and if I'm talking really fast with a lot of energy, you need to talk fast with a lot of energy. And that's where you have to start relying on things other than just the speech. You have to rely on the position you put people in, the influence you have over them. So for instance, when I turn up at a TV show, Princess, nobody is allowed to see Princess.
No.
It's like, and if she walks in the room, it's like, take the dog out. Well, that will translate in any language. No, it's not what I'm saying. It's the way I respond, like, oh my God, that can't happen. And everyone's like, oh, shit. You know, even if I spoke in a different language, it was like, that is something serious. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're told, like, you know, the covert methods I use, you know, be careful not to bang your head on my chair when you fall. And it's like, oh, okay. And the position I kneel them in, you know, it's a vulnerable
physiological
position.
Stuff, right?
So I had to get creative with the physiological stuff, with the, you know, body language, everything. It's not just about the words. Words are hugely powerful, But when you can't 100% rely on the words, because I don't know whether the translator's saying exactly what I'm saying. So you've got to use other, and that's how I got good. I had to get good quickly. And doing stage, you know, if you do therapy, you do something wrong, you don't find out until 3 weeks later, and they go, yeah, it didn't work, and that's it. But when you're on stage, you're like, they're not moving. Why are they not moving? Right. I need to increase my, you know, volume. I need to, you know, I need people in the back and stuff before, you know, behind. I like one of the shows, I'd be like, right, you know, when this music comes on and they didn't immediately jump, I'd like go along and knee them in the back. I
was reading, like, that was one of the ones I remember reading with there were two, I think, that I read of McGill's that I just was in horror. One was squeeze someone's chest.
All right,
and then an artery block. It's like, I don't think I'd do that because, like, the police have killed. It actually wrote, like, you have to be careful, you can kill someone. But
right, no, I didn't know that. But like, if say for instance, I'm like, you know, when I blow this whistle, you jump out of your seat. I'll blow it down the mic. Everyone will jump out of the bloody seat because it's loud and it's, you know, and the music moves people. I choose music very carefully. I choose their position very carefully. I'm looking at who needs to be sat next to who. You know, there's people, if people are dead, they're not moving, get rid of them fast because they're going to influence the rest. The ones that are really lively, put them next to some that are a bit lively so they influence them. And there's all sorts to take into account, not just your words, not just your tone, not just your speed, there's so much you can pick up from someone and the situation and the positions you put them in. So it's from the minute I arrive at an event, it's a full orchestrated play.
Yeah. But, you know, this is why, and I mean, I'm so grateful for you to chatting with me about this and let me kind of fangirl a little bit because, because but it just shows, you know, to be top of your game like this, it requires, you know, constant learning, application, discipline, sacrifice, and then you see it and it shows in the professionalism, Krystyna, and it shows in everything about the way you present yourself, the way your business is going. It shows how hard you work for your success, and I absolutely love that in a person. Commend you completely, and I'm very grateful for you being on the show and talking to me a bit about it.
So it's funny, I always look back and I think I didn't work that hard, but I think the process, the TV came easy to me, but actually pulling the TV off, whoa. And when people go, you must love doing the TV, I panic when and I know what I'm doing now, but it's that same feeling because it's like, what
BGT was huge, global, and then you know how many people are watching it, but not just how many people are watching it, excuse me, but how many people are going to keep on seeing it? You know, because their social media feeds are huge and perpetual. And
luckily, I didn't think about. If I'd have thought that way, I would have never have done it. I was like, I focused on the 3 judges, and that was enough for me. Do you know what I mean?
No,
that was it. The rest didn't exist.
No, it was brilliant. It was brilliant, and of course, you have said since. And I mean, it should be, well, it's not obvious to people, but Princess has retired and it didn't matter really all that much whether Princess was there. The Princess was part of the act, but Krystyna doesn't actually need the dog.
She has got,
just as a great
magic powers.
No.
I have.
You know, this is advanced psychology really, and the dog probably isn't a psychologist, just in case anyone.
I mean, she did training for staring.
She is, and she's lovely. But like, to me, I wasn't surprised, but I kind of was surprised just to the extent people bought that, and the shock, like in the Daily Mail and everything. It was family arse in the Daily Mail. I'll flash it up on here of like, the dog isn't it? It's not the dog, and I was like, what? Krystyna was going, now that's some more coverage, and if you need help, you can come to my actual business. So thanks for the coverage, and that just is, you know,
it to me.
Applause everybody, because I think that genius.
Is my skill, is getting free media when I do something.
But you see, again, I would say it again, that isn't free. That is because you have pivoted. something that's of use, of genuine use to people. And I know the difference that someone who can do that kind of, not just therapy, I mean, not even just the therapy, but so that type of coaching, I know the difference that can make to people if that's done ethically and well. You've been amazing, Krystyna. Thanks so much for coming on the show. I'm sure there'll be a million questions from everybody, but for now, thanks so much for being a guest on the Human Factor Security Podcast, Krystyna Lennon. Thank you.